these are my final week 2 rankings as I have the tight end rankings for PPR. Number 1, Travis Kelce. No surprise here. Arguably the best tight end in the league. Travis Kelce had himself a solid week 1, 50 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. I think he's going to have a better week this week against the Chargers. I think Mahomes going to look to him more, and I think he's easily going to be able to get another touchdown. Chargers defense, it's good, but it's not good enough to stop Travis Kelce. Number 2, George Kittle. George Kittle, this is up in the air. He might not play on Sunday, so his ranking a little shaky, but if he does play against the Jets, I think he's in store for a big game. This offense is so banged up. George Kittle is their only receiving option. He is a little bit hurt, but if he's out there, he's going to produce. Garoppolo is going to look his way, and I think he is going to have himself another awesome week. Number 3, Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews coming off a 2-touchdown performance against the Browns. Him and Lamar's chemistry is just getting better. Now that there's no Hayden Hurst, he's just going to get more and more snaps. He's going to have a great season. I think he is in store for another big game as Houston gave up a touchdown to Travis Kelce and 50 yards. I think Mark Andrews can easily replicate that as the Ravens win this game very easily. Number 4, Darren Waller. Darren Waller had an alright week 1. He had 8 targets, but he only had about 40 yards receiving. This week against the Saints, this week he plays the Saints. I think he's actually in a really good week. Saints gave up a touchdown to O.J. Howard in week 1, and I think Darren Waller's better than O.J. Howard. I think he's more involved in his offense than O.J. Howard. So I could see Derek Carr looking towards Darren Waller's way. Darren Waller's problem last year, he couldn't find the end zone, so let's hope he can change that this year and even boost his fantasy production even more. Number 5, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz did not have a good week 1. He did have a touchdown, but other than that, he had to drop. The Eagles' offense was stagnant in the second half, but Dallas Goedert really showed up in this game, and Dallas Goedert might start eating that Zach Ertz snaps a little bit more. I know the Eagles love to run 2 tight end sets, but still, Zach Ertz could. There's even rumors that the Eagles might not resign him, so maybe he gets traded. So Zach Ertz is a little bit shaky, but obviously if you're still having him, you're starting him. He's a must-start tight end 1, and I think he has a bounce-back week this week. Number 6, Hunter Henry. Even though the stat sheet doesn't really show it, Hunter Henry did have a good week. He was targeted 8 times. He was Tyrod Taylor's go-to guy. He was the most targeted receiver out of anyone. I think he can have another big week against the Chiefs. The Chiefs gave up a touchdown to Atkins of the Houston Texans, so I think Hunter Henry can find himself in the end zone. I think Tyrod Taylor's going to look to him his way a lot. However, they might try to target Henry and take him out of the equation, but I really think Hunter Henry could have a good week. I think Tyrod Taylor's still going to look to him as long as Tyrod Taylor is the starter. Number 7, Jared Cook. Jared Cook's role in this offense might get a little boost this week. No Michael Thomas. He did have a good week 1. I think he can have a good week 2. I think he can have a better week 2 as him and Emmanuel Sanders are really the only viable options for Drew Brees right now. So I think Jared Cook has a big week ahead of him. Number 8, Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee had a quiet week 1 along with Cooper Kupp, but that's because Jared Goff didn't have to throw the ball at all. This week, I think Jared Goff's going to have to throw the ball because they're not going to be able to run on the Eagles' run defense. So I think Tyler Higbee is going to have a good week. Logan Thomas of the Washington football team caught a touchdown. I think Higbee can easily catch a touchdown. I think Darius Slay's going to take one of the receivers out of the equation. So I think you have Higbee and Kupp or Woods, one or the other. So Jared Goff's going to be looking at Higbee a lot. Number 9, Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst didn't have the best debut, but that's because of Jamal Adams mainly. Jamal Adams was all over the place on Hayden Hurst. He had that one great diving catch, but I think Hayden Hurst is in store for a big week. Dallas' defense has never been truly great towards the tight end. Tyler Higbee didn't have a great week, but as I said, it's because they didn't throw the ball that much. Atlanta, on the other hand, throws the ball so much. I think Hayden Hurst is going to have a big week. He's going to cement himself as Austin Hooper's replacement, and I think he finds the end zone this week. Number 10, Dallas Goedert. As I talked about with Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert had a fantastic week 1, over 100 yards and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert is now a fringe tight end 1. He might be a tight end 1. In many fantasy leagues, I think you have to start him if you have him, unless you have one of these better options. But Dallas Goedert is on the rise in this Eagles offense. he is a very talented tight end. He's most likely going to be the starting tight end next year unless they re-sign Ertz, but I don't see that happening. So I think Dallas Goedert has another great week ahead of him. I think that the Rams, even Blake Jarwin got hurt, but Dalton Schultz still saw a lot of targets. He just dropped them, so they weren't really doing great against tight ends. So I think Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz have great weeks. Jonnu Smith at number 11. Jonnu Smith, sleeper tight end candidate this year, caught a touchdown from Ryan Tannehill. Now plays against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, who have a very poor defense. I think Jonnu Smith is going to cement himself as his number 2, number 3 option. Corey Davis had a great game in week 1, but I don't think he's a number 2 option for Ryan Tannehill yet. So I think Jonnu Smith is going to rise in this offense. He's going to rise in fantasy. I think he's going to have a really good week. Number 12, Noah Fant. Noah Fant had an amazing week 1. Noah Fant is probably going to end up as a top 7-6 tight end this year. I think if Cortland Sutton's out again, Noah Fant is going to see a lot of passes thrown his way. However, Evan Ingram got shut down in week 1 by Pittsburgh, but Evan Ingram is very inconsistent, and I don't think Daniel Jones looks to throw the ball to him a lot. So we'll see if Drew Lock throws the ball to Noah Fant a lot, or if Noah Fant gets Evan Ingram treatment and does not get any production whatsoever. Number 13, TJ Hockenson. TJ Hockenson against the Bears in week 1, 5 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown. I think he can have a really good week against the Packers. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot. So I think Hockenson is going to be more consistent this year. He's going to be better than he was in year 1. He's not going to drop the ball as much. I think he's going to be probably Matthew Stafford's favorite red zone target. So I think Hockenson has a big week ahead. Number 14, Evan Ingram. Just talk about Evan Ingram. Really unproductive, non-factor in week 1. However, he is playing against the Bears, who gave up 56 yards and a touchdown to TJ Hockenson. Evan Ingram can use his speed to his advantage and exploit the Bears defense, but until we see Daniel Jones just throw him the ball, it might be hard to start him if you have Evan Ingram. Unless you don't have a better option, I would probably bench Evan Ingram. Number 15. Number 16, Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki's the only option for this Dolphins team this week. They're not going to have Devontae Parker. I think that Tre'Davious White is going to shadow Preston Williams. So I don't think anyone else is going to really have a decent week. I don't think Mike Gesicki has a really good week either. But for now, I think Mike Gesicki is 16. Number 15, Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper, no David Njoku. Jarvis Landry might be out. I think Austin Hooper can have a big week. I think he needs to have a big week. They signed him that contract for all that money for him to do nothing in week 1. I think that Baker can find a safety outlet in him. But as of now, Austin Hooper's not really involved in this offense. We'll see how Thursday night's outcome affects that. 17, Rob Gronkowski. Speaking of non-factors, Rob Gronkowski was absolute horseshit in week 1. He was terrible. He only had 2 receptions for 11 yards. He was blocking a lot. He looked like he didn't play football in a whole year. But I don't know how Rob Gronkowski is going to be featured in this offense from here on out. O.J. Howard had a much better week 1. I don't know if Tom Brady is going to make Bruce Arians have Rob Gronkowski run more routes. I don't think Bruce Arians would let Tom Brady do that. But as of right now, Rob Gronkowski is not starting for me. Or I don't think you should start him in your fantasy lineup. Number 18, Chris Herndon. Chris Herndon, along with Jamison Crowder, only options this week in fantasy if you want to start any of them for the Jets. They're playing a banged-up 49ers team, Richard Sherman to the IR, but Chris Herndon still saw targets in week 1. I think Sam Darnold's going to have to throw the ball to somebody, and that somebody's going to be Chris Herndon and Jamison Crowder, so Chris Herndon could have upside this week. I still don't think I would start him. 19, Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron did not have a great week 1. But I think his role in this offense is only going to go up. Big Ben loved to throw to the tight ends in the past, and I think Eric Ebron is a very solid option for him. So I think Eric Ebron, you're not starting him yet unless you have to, but I think having him stashed on your bench would not be a bad option. Number 20, O.J. Howard. Just talking about O.J. Howard a little bit ago. Had a touchdown in week 1. Looked like how he should have looked last year, as he was non-existent for, I think, the first 10 weeks of the season. But O.J. Howard, unless he gets traded, I don't know how well he's going to be. and in fantasy this year. Could be inconsistent. However, this week I think Chris Godwin might be out, so they might run a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I think that opens a lot up for Gronk and OJ Howard. So we'll see how this week shapes out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 21, Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle, another person who didn't really have anything special in week 1. I don't know if Philip Rivers is going to target him a lot. Philip Rivers in his career always has like the targeted tight ends. Obviously, Antonio Gates, and Hunter Henry in LA. So Jack Doyle could see fantasy relevance again, but as of right now, he's pretty irrelevant in the past few years. Ever since Eric Ebron had that great touchdown season when he had Drew Lock, Jack Doyle hasn't done jack in this fantasy scene. 22, Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas had a pretty solid week 1 in terms of fantasy for tight ends. Caught a touchdown against the Eagles. Other than that, nothing much. Dwayne Haskins, as I said, I don't think he's a very good thrower of the football, so Logan Thomas's fantasy stock is limited by Dwayne Haskins. I think they're going to have to throw the ball more this game, so that does open some options up for Logan Thomas, but I don't think any of these tight ends, 17 through 25, you're starting unless you really have to, but Logan Thomas, he could be decent steal this year maybe. 23, Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham also caught a touchdown in week 1, saw some targets. Jimmy Graham, he's not going away, but he's not a fantasy relevant tight end anymore. He hasn't really been a fantasy relevant tight end for years now, and I don't see his stock going up unless Nick Foles starts, because Nick Foles is always like targeting the tight end, so I could see Nick Foles giving Jimmy Graham a boost in fantasy, but he's staying on my bench for this week. 24, Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen also caught a touchdown in week 1. Greg Olsen might be decently involved in this offense, even though he's old. I think Russell Wilson really likes to throw the ball to him. There was really good word at camp about him, so Greg Olsen is someone to look, is a name to keep an eye on out of these 21 and 25 as possibly a bye week filler, but other than that, nothing much. And finally, 25, Ian Thomas. Nothing much in week 1. A lot of people are high on Ian Thomas this year. We'll have to see how it goes with Ian Thomas. Teddy Bridgewater didn't really throw the ball to him all that often. He looked at Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel. But Ian Thomas could be a bench stash this season. I think he could be fantasy relevant eventually, but for now, you're not starting Ian Thomas. If you are, you are really desperate. But there it is. Those are my top 25 tight ends for week 2. Thanks for watching, and good luck to your fantasy weeks.